Britain in the late 18th and early 19th century was going through a roller coaster, and the same applies to Ireland as well. That there were dramatic things that were happening, that the cities were expanding greatly, that people's lives were being ripped apart, that a whole heap of new laws were being created. So some convicts were literally transported for things that 20 years earlier had not been criminal offences.
It was a period of transition from a largely agricultural society to a largely industrial society. And so the old order was breaking down and people were going to the cities and finding it hard to get a job there. So very easy to fall into theft just to get by or to find something to eat. The most minor crime I found was that somebody was transported for stealing a countryman's dinner. Now that wasn't for resale or anything, I think that was for eating there and then because he was hungry.
Well, one of the great debates in convictism is whether people were better off by being sent here, because the conditions back in England were dire. If you lived in an industrial slum, you lived the most appalling life and your life expectancy was low. And you did have to live by your wits. The people who were transported were pretty much the people who were caught. It would have been very difficult to get by in industrial London or any of the big burgeoning dark satanic mill cities without in some way being involved in criminal activity. And in the countryside it was no better, it may even have been worse.
We didn't have a large number of Irish before 1840, but we had large numbers in the 1840s. Many of them were fleeing a famine. And the Irish famine now, we think of Europe and we think that the famine must have just meant people were hungry, people were dying of hunger. If we want to imagine what the Irish famine was like, we can look at the images from, that we'll know from our television screens from Horn of Africa and those sorts of images. People were dying of hunger. And the population of Ireland still hasn't recovered to those pre-famine levels even today.
I made a particular study of women who were transported in the famine years. And what drew me to these women, to their story, was that they committed arson in order to be transported. Conditions in post-famine Ireland were so difficult that they thought that they were better off being sent out as a convict than staying in Ireland to die.